Warhammer 40,000 Dawn of War 2 is a squad-based tactical real-time strategy game. Now, unlike most of the RTS games I've played that have involved base construction and resource gathering from resource nodes, to accumulating wealth, to making more units, to finally going out and stomping the ever-living crap out of your enemies, this game does not feature a whole lot of that. Now don't worry, you're still going to get the opportunity to stomp the ever-living crap out of your enemies. It's just not your typical RTS game. If anything, if I was going to compare this game to a previous game that I've played before, I'd probably have to compare it to the Commandos series of games developed by IDOS. Now I've done it, I said the name IDOS, and there's going to be another great big debate on how to pronounce that word. Been in it before, is it IDOS or EDOS or EDOS? Anyway, sorry folks, let's get on with the review. Okay, so what's your grand motivation in this game? Well, in Dawn of War 2, you're going to take on the role of a new force commander of the legendary Blood Ravens Legion. Your mission? To assist one of the Legion's most decorated and iconic figures, Captain Thule, in protecting Subsector Aurelia from the enemies of the Emperor. I consider the game's graphics to be quite good. Now I think that's saying a lot considering the fact this game is an RTS. When's the last time you've played an RTS that had really good graphics? When you zoom right in on the action, you can tell that Relic Entertainment has done a good job in terms of their attention to detail. Machine gun fire, explosions, and sword hits all look really cool, and enemy boss unit special attacks provide some of the most impressive graphical effects in the game. I found the sound effects and voice acting in Dawn of War 2 to be really well done, especially in comparison to some of the RTS games that have been released lately. I have to say that I really enjoyed some of the dialogue between the various squad leaders and other characters, and I found that these interactions really helped to move the story along while providing me some insight into the history of the Blood Raven Legion that I was tasked to command. Now, one thing that I'm going to comment on that I normally wouldn't is the in-game music. Like many gamers out there, one of the first things I do when I start playing a game is I turn the in-game music off. This is after usually listening to it for about 3 to 5 minutes. It's either I turn the in-game music off, or I have to start slamming my forehead into my keyboard to make the horrible sound stop. This is one of the first games in a long time where I didn't feel the need to do that. Good job with the in-game music, Relic Entertainment. The first few missions could be treated as somewhat of a tutorial for playing the game, as they seem to have been designed to ease you into the gameplay, providing you the player with the ins and outs of commanding your forces, using cover, and how to use the special abilities of your squad leaders. After you've completed these first few tutorial missions, you're provided with more options in terms of the missions you can select to go on. For example, depending on what point in the storyline you're on, you can select to travel to different planets, where each planet has different missions available for you to choose from. You're going to spend a significant amount of your time in the orbital view from your battleship. Now by this I mean before and after battles. In the orbital view, you can browse the various missions that are available, swap out squads, change equipment, and level up your squads when they've obtained enough experience to gain a new level. With each level gained, you can put points into 4 skill lines: health, range damage, melee damage, and energy. As you add points to these different skill lines, you will unlock new special abilities for your squad leaders, such as the ability to use different armor and weapons. As I mentioned previously, there is no resource gathering in the game. However, you can capture several types of strategic assets such as shrines, communication arrays, and automated foundries. Usually, capturing these assets is not actually part of the mission objectives. Capturing them is part of the bonus objectives you can accomplish, such as killing every single last one of the enemies on the map before completing the actual mission objectives themselves. Each of these strategic assets provides you with some sort of bonus. For example, the more communication arrays you own, the more times you will be able to use a specific, special skill such as calling in artillery strikes. Throughout the game, various optional missions will become available, such as defending one of your strategic assets from the enemy, or going off to kill a particularly nasty enemy boss that has popped up. Now you have to be careful about these optional missions. If you get fixated with only completing missions on one planet, there's a good chance you're going to miss out on completing one of these optional missions on another planet, and that could cost you one of your strategic assets. You've been warned. Game replayability of Dawn of War 2 is going to come mainly from the multiplayer component. Although I suppose once you played through the single player campaign once, you could go back through it again and make some different choices in terms of the squads you use, the skills you choose to focus on, and the optional missions you choose to complete. Personally, I couldn't see myself doing this more than twice. The multiplayer component of the game provides you with 2 options. You can play against other players in the competitive skirmish mode, or you can play through the single player campaign in co-op mode. In the skirmish mode, You can choose to play as any one of the 4 factions found in the single-player campaign on maps with up to 6 of their players. Teams win either by capturing and holding control points or by annihilating the enemy team. Unlike the single-player campaign, the skirmish mode is more like a typical RTS, in that you have the ability to build new units based on the amount of resources you have, and the amount of resources you have is dictated by the amount of control points you own. Let's take a moment now to talk about game stability. This is always a big issue in any game that you play. Obviously, no one is going to find a game fun that's constantly crashing every 5 to 10 minutes. Well, I'm happy to say that aside from requiring a Windows Live game account, that I experienced absolutely no technical problems at all. Not one single crash or lockup in many hours of gameplay. It's time to wrap up this game review, folks. I'm giving this game a 5 out of 5. It has good graphics, great gameplay, good sound and voice acting, and it's as stable as the Rock of Gibraltar. Now, although maybe the storyline might be a bit predictable at times, this is still a great game. Now, I hope you enjoyed watching the review as much as I enjoyed making it.
We must not allow Meridian to fall.